We don't own anything. We don't own anything. Trevor Noah said it so beautifully last night. There's a social contract that we all have, that if you steal or if I steal, then the person who is the authority comes in and they fix the situation. But the person who fixes the situation is killing us. So the social contract is broken. And if the social contract is broken, why the fuck do I give a shit about burning the fucking Football Hall of Fame, about burning a fucking Target? You broke the contract when you killed us in the streets and didn't give a fuck. You broke the contract when for 400 years we played your game and built your wealth. You broke the contract when we built our wealth again on our own by our bootstraps in Tulsa, and you dropped bombs on us. When we built it in Rosewood and you came in and you slaughtered us. You broke the contract, so fuck your Target.
Yes, yes, yes. That is the voice of Kimberly Jones. And in that rant, she asks a very poignant question that we're going to explore today. How can we win? How can we win? Let me welcome back to the show. She, of course, is an activist, NAACP Image Award nominee, co-author of the New York Times bestseller, I'm Not Dying With You Tonight, and now author of a new book just released called How Can We Win? Let me welcome the great Kimberly Jones. Hi.
Hey, I'm so happy to be back with you.
Listen, you powerhouse. I was impressed with you from day one, and now you're out here doing all of these things. And you ask a question that every day I'm pondering, and I'm coming up with some solutions. But I want to hear what your thoughts are about how, because we are going to win. So let me just be very clear.
Yeah,
we're winning.
Sure.
But I need us to all think about how. What we're bringing to the victory, what we're bringing to ensure victory. So how can we win, Kimberly Jones?
Well, I think, I'm a fan of history. I love history, and I love to look at both the ills of history, but I also like to look at the successes of history. So I looked back at what Black people experienced in this country, and when did it look like, even if for a moment, we were getting it right and we were headed in the right direction. And I think that was Reconstruction, which is why it's interesting to me that is an era of time that rarely gets taught. And during Reconstruction, through the Freedmen's Bureau, one of the things that General Oliver Howard, which Howard University is named after, that he was doing, people always say, well, we never got our 40 acres and a mule. And I wish that was true. It would be less devastating than the truth was that we did actually start to get the 40 acres. They didn't give him much to run the Bureau, but what they did was give him 850,000 acres of land. And so he actually started disseminating that land, and we were getting 40 acres. And when he had one, he'd throw in a mule. And what we did was we controlled the watermelon industry with that land, and so that is where the negative association between Black people and watermelon came from, because if you were white in polite company, you didn't want to say Negro, you would say watermelon picker. So, they took this a magnificent thing of us controlling an industry and turned it negative. And then when Lincoln was shot and Johnson took office, the first thing he did was start to revoke that land. So, but before that, we had 13 lawmakers in powerful positions that were Black. Matter of fact, those 13 lawmakers are the reason we have public education as you know it, which is why I find it problematic that Black people have such poor education. This is also when we got the Freedmen's Bank, so Black people could have a banking system. All of this came together and Black people were thriving. When you look at the Congress in places like Louisiana and Virginia, Black people had power positions, and there was starting to be a change. Frederick Douglass was helping to issue in this change. Ida B. Wells was part of this change in this era. And then, we switched presidents, and all of a sudden everything began to get dismantled. The Black Code started to come in, and then we started to run into the new era, which was going to be Jim Crow. So my thing is, because we had success in that flash of Reconstruction, what I'm asking is bring in Reconstruction 2.0. That we need an actual bureau the same way in which they have the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And I'm not saying that's fully function in the way that they're supposed to. But we need a bureau that's going to attack every area in which we have been discriminated against and held back. So that needs to deal with everything from redlining to the medical systems to the fact that we live in an educational caste system. So it's tax-based. So if you live in a poor neighborhood, you're getting a poor education. If you live in a wealthy neighborhood, you're getting a wealthy education. So I think we just need to create some, because even if we give everybody checks for reparations, if the system that is plaguing us is still intact and in place, and then the way it is not going to move the needle in the way in which we think it does. So it needs to be unpacked completely.
Okay, so here's my first question to you, because your speech broke it down about how we built it. We pulled ourselves up by the bootstraps and they bomb it and they burn it down. So with the way it looks now, we know what our Supreme Court is. We don't have one. It's just Republicans. The Senate, we're probably going to lose the midterms. With this move towards states' rights, how are we going to build anything at the federal level when the US Supreme Court is basically saying the federal government has no authority, period?
Exactly. And this is why I always say, you know, when Reagan had his trickle down economics, which is funny because the first time I went viral was when I was 8 years old and I cut President Reagan out on national TV. But I don't believe in top down, because top down has never been successful. I believe in bottom up. And so one of my greatest idols is Rudy Lozano, who was a freedom fighter in the city of Chicago, who almost single-handedly is responsible for why we got Harold Washington as the mayor. And, you know, I always say, you don't get Rudy, you don't get Obama. There's a through line for that. And so I think that what we have to do really is focus on our local politics and work it up towards the state level. Because, you know, when you see something that's keep going wrong, you don't keep banging your head. Federally, we have not been able to have power, because at the end of the day, when it comes to the federal government, you know, poor people vote and rich people lobby, and lobbying always wins. And so the only place for you to really make moves is from the local level. Like I live in Atlanta, for example, right? There's a corner, there's two cross streets, Moreland and Memorial. If you stand on one side of that street, you're in DeKalb County. If you stand on another side of that street, you're in Fulton. If you are standing on the Fulton side with a user's amount of marijuana, you get a $50 citation, because it is not legalized in Georgia yet, but it is decriminalized in Fulton County. If you walk 5 steps across the street, you are now in DeKalb, you're going to jail. So that should tell you how important your local politics are. And the good side of that is I watched 4 19-year-old girls change a rape law with grassroots lobbying. 4 19-year-old girls in the county of DeKalb. So this is where you have the power. You have access to your city councilman. You can show up to those meetings. At the end of the day, people don't recognize that politicians' primary job is really, they're like glorified accountants. It's managing budgets. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I can't go to the White House and tell them how to manage budget, but I could go to city council and tell them how to manage budget. I can go to the state and tell them how to manage budget, how to reallocate funds, how to move things around, where I want my services and programs to be. And guess what? People underestimate what their vote is. Your vote is what I tell people, the way I want people to start looking at their vote, your vote is your employee review. We don't work for these people. These people work for us. If you're doing a good job, I'll keep you. If you're not, I'll vote you out. And that is most powerful at the local level.
Yes.
Kimberly Jones, if you don't know her, Kim Latrice Jones, you can follow her on Twitter, or Kim Jones Writes, because she does. She's got a couple of books. But what Kim Jones thinks as well. I've been frustratingly trying to come up with solutions on these airways. The first was the Party of Lincoln. I was like, okay, all right, these parties switch, they wax and wane. It's not about the D or the R, it's about the people who are in the D or the R moving the levers. So let's register as Republican in close or open primary states, or close primary states. Let them put us, because you get the literature, you get and let's put up candidates that follow what we want to run against these unopposed people who, for some of them, only 1,000 voters come out. We can get 1,000 voters come out. We could beat them in a primary for a state legislature, for a city council, for a mayor, for even the Senate. We could probably, especially in a primary, let's primary Lindsey Graham, let's primary these people, and let's in their own party with us.
Yes.
Everyone, I got cussed out. You said yes. 7 years ago, people called me all kind of names, and I was like devastated because I was like, this is logic. Fast forward, oh, we wish we had listened, because that would have been the thing to not have Trump, right? Now, fast forward, I'm like, all right, states' rights. What if we did a great migration to flee lynchings and horrible treatment and lack of opportunities, right? Mm-hmm. Let's go to these places that have 2 senators and not even 1 million people. Cost of living is cheaper. It might be a little chilly, but damn, some of y'all live in Chicago. It's cold as F in Chicago. Kiss my ass. It's cold as F in Chicago. Why not just go a couple states over, North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, 1 million of us there, and there's more than enough of us to populate it. We can control the political landscape and actually build out, whole communities. Now, it may be hostile in the beginning. There's always the frontier, the first people in, but we come in a horde. There's not too much they can do about it. Right. Or better yet, places where we are heavily populated, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina. Louisiana. We saw what happened in Georgia. We just need to come together like Voltron and work with a common goal. Primary some of these folk, like, let's do multiple things in these places and control at least everything, which we can. Y'all want to do states' rights? Okay, let's do what they did. They just ran a few people for state legislature. We got whole places that right now are the minority are running the majority of people because they show up and they run. Yep. I think that's a good idea. But who would push that though, Kimberly? Because we used to have the Black church that would say, okay, here's where we go. We used to have groups, some of them are giving out image awards, but not really doing much else. I said it, y'all can at me. Who are pushing, who's pushing the agenda?
The young people. I tell people all the time, listen, I'm an old head myself, and I say this all the time, like, get out the way. Let's groom these young people. And let me tell you something, just this past election we had in Atlanta, there was an amazing young frontline worker who won a city council seat, Antonio Lewis, against a 30-year incumbent, Joyce Shepard. His campaign manager is 18. His campaign manager is 18 years old and used everything that's at his fingertips right now, from social media to parties, to block parties, to skate clubs, to take that district. And so a lot of times what you have to do, we have to have an integration between generations. So we get frustrated with the new technology instead of getting out of our feelings and utilize it. I don't need to be frustrated with the new technology. All I need to do is dip my toe in with wisdom when I'm talking to the young people who know how to utilize it. And the combination of their fresh ideas and understanding of the world as it is today, and my wisdom on how to move and handle yourself, will move the needle. That's why when I was watching that congressional hearing with Facebook and the questions they were asking, I'm like, oh my God, how are y'all running things? You don't even know how Facebook works.
I know.
Well, 866-801-8255, that's our fault too. That, like, there are maybe, a fourth of Congress is over the age of 70. You got 80-year-olds pledging to run. Whose child is that? 866-801. We're on the radio live, children. All right, y'all can participate. You got 80-year-olds vowing to run for the Senate again. You 86. You running for a 6-year term. But they know, it's wealth, it's power, and they don't want to give that up. The dying breath, they don't want to give it up. And they don't want to give it up, and the stink of Jim Crow is still on them, so we shouldn't even be wanting them to be in those seats. If you're 86 years old, that means you participated in watching lynchings. That means you participated. That means you participated in watching people drink at different water fountains. That means your grandmother, your auntie, your sister probably had someone lynched like Emmett Till for some ill reasons. So the fact that you are still a part of the conversation when you are actively have been a part of the problem, that's an issue. That's a real issue.
We need
Yes.
to get some investigators. Listen, we be trying to be too nice, man. Like, we need to get some investigators and start digging up some information on some of these people and then utilizing these young people to get the information out. The fact that we are still asking questions as to how we can get stuff done, to me, is interesting when we live in to me, the most we can win era we've ever lived in, because guess what? Due to social media, the internet, all of that, you can't gatekeep. You cannot gatekeep a Karen Hunter. You can't gatekeep a Kimberly Jones anymore. It's the era of free information. So you can't, I don't need any big wigs to tell me what to do. All I need is my device. That's like my video that went viral. It went viral in a matter of an hour. Even if someone didn't want it to go, it was too late. So at this time, I'm telling you, if we don't put the charge in these young people who are interested and engaged and take ego out of wanting to control the narrative. In my organization, TPU, we have 5 different divisions. The YAL, the Young Atlanta Leaders, man, they run the whole organization. All I do is sit back and utilize my reputation, my connections, and my wisdom when I communicate with them. All of us OGs, we look to the Young Atlanta Leaders and say, what are we doing? Okay, then we have our legal department tell them when and how they can do it. I tell them how to conduct themselves. Attorney Greg comes in and tells them what the law is, and then we let them move and we get out of their way.
So how do we put this in a bottle and take it from city to city?
Well, now that part, that's what we need to do next.
All right, so let's back up. Let's deconstruct it. How was TPU formed? I mean, because again, we had a whole conversation about our bodies. A lot of us are disconnected from our bodies to the point where we don't know what we put in it, how it filters through, what it's doing, where disease forms. So we're not even connected when something goes wrong. We'll go to the doctor and we'd rather take a pill than actually get to the source. So back us all the way up, Kimberly. How did you form this? And then how did it get to a point where it is now effective? And then how do we duplicate it?
Yeah, the TPU, it stands for the People's Uprising, because it was formed out of the uprising of 2020 when these kids were taken to the streets and they were doing some things that were a little bit reckless and getting themselves arrested and getting themselves in trouble. So all of the old head activists in Atlanta, we were like, hey, aunties and uncles, it's time to activate like Voltron. We need to go out there and be with these kids and let them do what they need to do, but we need to offer them guidance. And through that, first of all, people be like, kids don't respect old heads. That's not true. Are you talking to them or are you talking down to them? Because I got all the respect of the young kids in my community. They love Auntie Kim. They love Miss Kim. They talk to me about things, but it's because I'm engaged with them. I'm not talking at them and I'm not talking down to them. You know what I'm saying? And it's like I inspire them and I lean on that inspiration in order to give them understanding. So we just stepped in and formed a board of the OGs to oversee what they were already doing. And then we put it together and made it a task force so that we could have a bridge between us, industry, and politics. So half of the people that we put on board were politicians that we actually knew, people like Park Cannon, who was arrested for knocking on the door. She's on the board. People like that we knew and trusted, so that we had intel into what was going on at the city level and the state level. And then we partnered with businesses that we trusted, and then we made that all work together. And we've talked about that, how we kind of do need to do like a little packaging and a little tour and tell people how we're working, because that influence means something. And it's like, I just want to say this real quick, because first of all, Karen, I did not know Tonya was going to be on this show, so I was a little taken aback when she came on the screen, because I'm about to cry. Don't cry, Kim. Who cutting onions in here? Listen. Growing up as a little girl in Chicago, on the south side of Chicago, and I fell in love with movies, which was my first introduction to what I wanted to do as a creative. I wanted to make movies. I wanted to make movies because of one movie, and that movie was Beach Street. And when I went down and I started researching stuff as a child, I was a researcher. I started researching stuff about Beach Street, and I saw that she was from Chicago. It made me feel like I could do it. It made me feel like I could do it, because I was like, she from where I'm from. And if she can do it, I can do it. And so you don't know the impact that you're having on kids. That's why you got to show up like you think they're watching, even when they're not.
I want to sit in that for a minute. Kimberly Jones is here. And if you didn't know, you must not be alive.